Welcome to the Scoop Equine Nutrition Podcast. This is episode 12. I am your host, Annie Emery. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to cover a very interesting topic, young horse nutrition. We are separating fact from fiction, all with a scientific lens. Let's get started. A very important note for today's podcast is when I say young horse, I mean a horse that is 24 months or younger. That is the nutritional classification of a young horse. Within this life stage, there are many subclasses. Weanlings, yearlings, long yearlings. A 5-month-old is going to eat very differently than a 9-month-old. And yes, we body condition score the babies too. An underweight 6-month-old is going to have a different diet than an overweight 6-month-old foal. Myth number 1. Young horses are just like adult horses, aren't they? You know, you give them both a ration balancer, some hay. Actually, this is not true at all. Young horses have a very high nutrition need. This is the foundation of all of the myths we'll be discussing today. Young horses are growing rapidly, which means they need nutrients to build the bones, muscles, organs, tissues, etc. The horse has to eat more vitamins, minerals, protein, yes, even starch. For example, an adult horse weighing 1,000 pounds might need around 630 grams of protein a day if they're in light work or retired. Conversely, an 8-month-old weanling weighing 500 pounds requires 717 grams of protein. So yes, the little baby needs more protein than the adult horse. Crazy, I know, but that's what the numbers are telling us. The numbers are coming from the National Research Council, which informs everything we do as nutrition professionals in the United States. This is just an example. That's not a particular diet for a particular horse. But the point is, there's a significant difference. Feeding a young horse like they're a little mini adult can lead to deficiencies or imbalances, potentially stunting growth, and may very well cause developmental issues. Young horses are not just mini adults. They are growing bodies with unique needs. And in general, I'm finding that people are very scared to feed young horses, which makes sense. Nobody wants to grow them too fast. People are unsure what to do. So lack of education causes many of us to underfeed horses. So we'll talk about this in detail today. Myth number 2. I see this all the time. There is a myth out there that high protein diets cause growth problems in horses. So this myth dates back decades and caused lots of unnecessary worry. Many people believe that feeding high protein diets leads to developmental orthopedic diseases, called DODs, and other growth problems. The good news is that research has debunked this notion. Protein is essential for growth and does not directly cause DODs. The real culprits behind developmental issues are often excessive caloric intake, high starch feeds, and mineral imbalances, especially in the form of calcium and phosphorus. We know that genetics, exercise, and fetal development also play a role. What happens if you restrict protein too much in a young horse? You could unintentionally harm your horse by slowing its growth, reducing feed intake, and impairing skeletal development. When we think about protein, the key is balance. Protein is not the bad guy. High-quality protein is one of the most important things we can do for the diet. Myth number 3. Grass or hay alone is enough for a young horse. Turn them out. They'll be fine. They look great. What's the problem? I did touch on this a little bit in my last podcast, but I'm still seeing this reflected in young horse nutrition, social media, and with client consultations. We know that grass and hay are vital to a young horse's diet. As always, we want a forage-first diet. That is not negotiable. However, hay and grass do not provide enough vitamins, minerals, protein, etc. for a growing horse, especially copper zinc, and selenium. That's where a fortified concentrated feed comes in. So this bridges the gap, ensuring your young horse gets everything they need for healthy development. Again, if you want to dive deeper into this, check out the hay conversation in the Scoop Equine Nutrition podcast. Myth number 4. Rapid growth should be avoided at all costs. Actually, yes, this is a bit of a gray area. Excessive rapid growth can be problematic, but underfeeding to slow the growth can lead to long-term health consequences. Monitoring body condition is paramount for young horses. I cannot emphasize this enough. Young horses need a lot of tweaking. And that's actually one of the biggest surprises to me in doing all of this work. Myth number 5. Young horses can eat all the concentrate they want. So this is a bit of a weird one, but I have seen it around. They have to grow. Give them a bunch of food. Unfortunately, this is a bad idea. Their stomachs are only so big. And remember, we have to feed the right amount of volume for the horse's stomach size. So a 4-month-old baby needs to have a meal size appropriate for their stomach. An 8-month-old, 12-month-old, same thing. The meal sizes have to be proportional to their physical size. That's a consideration. And also, we do not want to give them unrestricted meals. That's a recipe for disaster. You could have overload of minerals and vitamins and protein. It's just a mess. So don't do that. Focus on portion control and feeding the proper formula at the right amount for your horse. We do not need to guess. We have the National Research Council. We have excellent feeds. All the big major companies have excellent feeds that could work for your horse. Use them at the right amounts. We are very lucky that we have so many great options. Myth number 6. Supplements are not necessary if the horse is eating a balanced diet. Well, this one is a bit of a gray area. Generally, a high-quality, balanced food will meet a young horse's nutrition needs, and paired with an excellent hay. You guys know I'm a fan of forage first, fine. But is there a place for supplements? Potentially, and this is where working with myself or a colleague would actually be helpful. Bounce ideas off us. What are you seeing with your horse? Is there a particular concern that you have? Supplements used properly and carefully do come into play for young horses, and there is a role for them. However, most people reach for supplements when they really don't know what to do about the diet, and they're kind of misdirecting their efforts. And if a hay is deficient in certain things, you might want to do some extra work on the concentrate. If your horse has a vitamin E deficiency, I can't fix that through diet. You're going to have to work with your veterinarian to get them on a good program for that. And every horse needs salt. Every horse. Yes, even young horses. So how much salt a horse needs depends on their requirements, but that's something that we can easily tell you in the consultation. Salt is generally not provided in most feeds and is generally not present in hay or pasture. So to summarize, supplements are generally not needed, but it's a case-by-case basis. Myth number 7. Weanlings should be fed just like yearlings. A growing horse is a growing horse, right? Not exactly. So, like I said, in the young horse classification, we have different stages. Weanlings and yearlings have different needs. A weanling actually has a higher nutrition need than a yearling because they're in the rapid growth phase. Peak bone development actually happens between 3 and 8 months. This is the time to talk to me, people. Do not wait too long. If you get behind the curve, I've seen it before, things can go bad, particularly in a super high starch, high sugar diet. Feeding programs for horses should be adjusted frequently, sometimes every 2 to 4 weeks. So we need to make sure their diet is adapting to their growth and also their body condition. It's not a one and done process. It's about consistent monitoring and fine-tuning. Like I said, the amount a young horse needs tweaking is actually one of the biggest surprises for me doing this equine nutrition work professionally. It's not difficult, but it's just surprising how much they need fluffing and tweaking. And especially if your horse has been imported, I work with a lot of young imported horses. Allow them to adjust to their new home for a couple weeks before you would talk to myself or a colleague. You just want to stabilize them, get them rehydrated, talk to your veterinarian, and then we can start together. So myth number 8, all foals need creep feeding. So creep feeding is when solid food is being fed before weaning. So it's not a universal requirement. In many cases, a mare's milk and access to quality pasture are sufficient. It can be beneficial for foals with high nutrition needs or in situations where the milk produced by the mare is inadequate. Like everything in nutrition, it's situational. So the first step is I suggest you talk to your veterinarian to get this squared away, and then you can give myself or a colleague a call. Foals do need careful management as well. Myth number 9. Oh, I'm seeing this one a lot. Oh boy, mineral blocks provide enough supplements for horses. We're going to throw them in a pasture, let them grow up. I have a yearling. We don't want to overfeed them. Let's put out a mineral block. That's good enough, isn't it? No, actually, mineral blocks are a bad idea. They're not enough nutrition. If you remember, horses need 6 classifications of nutrients. Minerals are only one of the 6. And, like I said before, there's such a high need for nutrition that you're really undershooting if you use just a mineral block. We don't know exactly how much they're licking of the block either. They may not touch it in the entire day, so you may be under providing nutrients. Also, they might be licking it too much, and you might go too much the other way. It's just a guessing game. When we have the option to do it better, why not? We have good feeds, we know better, and let's just do it the right way. Myth number 10. All horses grow at the same rate. Not exactly. Horses grow at their own rates. I've had horses of the same breed in my programs grow very differently. Some are a little tiny, some are a little bigger, so we have to adjust appropriately. The growth rate does vary by breed, genetics, and environment. So feeding program should be individualized. Myth number 11. Balancers are great for a young horse. Why not? Well, maybe. I have used balancers in some programs. However, it needs to be done carefully. Again, this isn't a diet balancing program, but balancers are not a universal answer. Myth number 12. Alfalfa is great for a young horse. We can feed them 100% alfalfa. It'll be fantastic. Well, again, careful. Generally, alfalfa is too high in calcium and too low in phosphorus. And the ratio is important as well. So we not only have the levels of calcium and phosphorus, but the ratio between them. If calcium is too high, it can cause changes in bone density. Calcium can interfere with phosphorus absorption. It can put extra stress on the kidneys. It can inhibit absorption of magnesium and zinc, can potentially increase the risks of enterolysis, and can cause soft tissue calcification. They may not happen, but that's on paper what could happen. So calcium and phosphorus is one of the things as a nutrition professional we really want to check. Thank you for joining me today on this episode all about young horse nutrition. If you have any questions, or if you want to get in touch with me, you can find me, Annie Emery, at revolutionequinenutrition.com, or you can join my Facebook group. We have over 20,000 members there. As always, these podcasts are intended for education only. They are not a replacement for medical advice. Please use everything at your own risk. I'm an independent equine nutrition professional. I am not associated with any feed companies, supplement companies, or specific brands. I am a consumer educator and advocate, and I do diet balancing programs. Thank you again for joining me, and we will see you on the next episode of the Scoop Equine Nutrition Podcast. Until next time.